Thank you. I'd like to say thank you again to the Commission on continuing to show your support of our activities in Tallahassee. I'm actually a 41-year member of this organization. It started in Tallahassee in 53, so, or 55, excuse me. But we do try to promote women to go into the skilled trades and work in the construction industry. We know that college is not for everyone. So we do try to make sure that our young girls coming up know that there are other opportunities, making great income and great careers and futures for them in our areas. We have women who work everything from owning their own companies, being general contractors, licensed contractors in many fields, the people who do the bookkeeping and the answer the telephone and secretarial work too. But we have a lot of women out there running heavy equipment, being carpenters and working on the jobs themselves, being inspectors, doing anything there is out there to do in construction, a woman can also do it. So we just encourage you to everyone to let your girls growing up know there are these opportunities and something other than just going into the traditional roles for women. These are non-traditional roles and they are available for girls and women to come. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. I think we'll move on at this time for a presentation from Steve Harrelson with the Consolidated Dispatch Agency update. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing me to come here today to speak to you about something that has become near and dear to my heart, and that is the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. Want to give you a brief snapshot of where we are now. I was told county staff I'd keep it brief, so I promise you I'm going to do that, and then talk to you about 4 different areas that I think are important for the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. I'll refer to it as the CDA from here on out. That 4 areas are staffing, 911 call taking, thank you, Matt, training, and also some of the new technology we're looking at right now. First thing with staffing, we are 8 positions down currently. We have 5 people that will be starting with us April 1st, and my staff has told me our next class that we're going to start September 1st, we will hit the other 3, plus the additional staff that we are looking at getting as well. So we are well on our way to being fully staffed, which is very important when it comes to answering the phones at our CDA. The 911 call taking, the National Emergency Number Association sets a standard for us on 911. And the standard is this: in a 24-hour period, which is our 2 shifts, we have to answer on the busiest hour 90% of the calls within 10 seconds. The other standard is 95% of the calls within 20 seconds for every additional hour for the day. So what we're doing now, we are not beating that goal every day, but we are moving toward it, and we've had a lot better days coming that we are getting the calls answered. They're hitting that 90% mark, and they're hitting that 95% mark quite a bit of the time. So as we continue to move forward with staffing, the call taking will improve for us all. On training is very important for the call center. This is a job that requires a lot of technical skill. This is not a job you can just hire somebody and sit them down on the phone and tell them to go to work. It takes 8 months to train somebody to be completely trained for the CDA. And this is somebody that can work any of the 4 positions that we do, from the 911 call taking to the law radio, fire radio, and then also teletype. So 8 months is extremely streamlined training session that we have set up for them. And we have been working with it, and we're staying with it, so we're able to produce a quality operator within 8 months' time. Supervision training is another important thing we're looking at. The Institute of Police Technology over there in Jacksonville, Florida, has training courses for telecommunications supervisors. We are sending every one of our supervisors to this, and also the next generation who are taking their place when these supervisors move on. So we're always thinking about the next day. We're not worried about what happened in the past. It's always what's coming in the future for us all. current staff that we have on that we are currently training. So we're doing a lot of training, matter of fact. We're training new folks that are coming in, and we also have staff on that we're training as well to get them up to full speed. So a lot of training is going on at the CDA, but it never stops. This is always kind of training to give us the best CDA we can possibly have for the citizens of Leon County and Tallahassee. The last thing I want to tell you about is the technology. This is the most interesting part. We do have a new system with our enhanced 911 system we have. We're at phase 2, is a system called Rapid Light. When you call now on 911 with your mobile phone, we can pretty much most of the time tell you where you're at in the general vicinity, and we can tell what number you're calling from. With Rapid Light, though, we can narrow your position down within about 15 meters. So even if you call 911 and you don't say a word, all we have to do is go to the system, put your number in, and we're able to tell exactly where you're at. You may say, why is that important? Well, one of the worst things, if someone gets kidnapped and they can't talk, or somebody's breaking into their house and they can't speak because they're afraid somebody will hear them, just hit 911 and that's it. We will go to them and we will send them help. So it's an incredible system for us to have in this area, and we're able to track as well. So if they are on the phone with 911 and they're moving but not talking, we can track them as well. Now, this is not a big brother thing. We can only do it if you call the 911 system. And it's only used for communications for us to get help to the folks in the field. One of the other technologies, and the last one we'll talk about, is the one called electronic police dispatch. We currently have it for our fire and also for our EMS calls. These are scripted protocols, so when someone calls in, we ask the questions, and you may have heard people say, why do we ask so many questions? Well, it's an important reason why for two things. One, we want to get as much information as we can to the first responders that are going to the call. And second, we want to be able to give pre-arrival instructions. So if someone doesn't know how to do CPR, our operators, and they have done this, can actually give CPR instructions over the phone. We've delivered babies over the phone. We have a stork club right now that we actually get started. They have to get certified and they get the PIN, but there have been babies delivered over the phone. But for people who get into a situation where they can, you have somebody who has a bad bleed or something, seconds count. So for us to be able to give the instructions before EMS or fire gets there helps us save lives. It enhances our system and our service that we provide to our citizens. So moving toward electronic police dispatch, same principle. We ask the same questions every single time, get these protocols, and this is put on through the International Academy of Emergency Dispatch. And this is a system that's used throughout the world, London, Los Angeles, New York, Las Vegas. So these systems are in place, and these questions are being vetted out completely by the Academy of Fellows that ask these questions in certain order so we can get the information. And you may have heard things about we're asking all these questions, but we're not sending help. But as questions are being answered, we pre-dispatch before we get the entire call. So we're getting help there with information as quickly as possible going to them so they can do what they need to do when they get on scene. As I said, I promise I keep it brief, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
Okay?
Seeing no questions or commissioners in queue, thank you.
Thank you
so much for the report.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harrelson. All right, moving right along to our friends from COCA. Amanda, you'll come forward and talk to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see everybody. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Amanda Carrieth Thompson, and I'm currently serving as the interim director of the Council on Culture and Arts, often referred to as COCA. And I'm joined today by our COCA board chair. This is Lucia Fishburne. We are delighted to be here. We thank you for the opportunity to discuss our organization's grant programs. But before I begin, I feel it's important for me to provide you with a quick update regarding our leadership. There we go. As Tallahassee and Leon County's designated local arts agency with nearly 35 years worth of service to the community, we are currently seeking an experienced leader for the next phase of our organization's development. The search has already begun, and the position is being advertised at a national, regional, state, and local level. Once the March 22nd deadline passes, the search committee will narrow the applicants to a few final candidates and conduct interviews in April. In early May, our COCA Board of Directors will select their new director, and we hope to have that person in place by early June. We are all really excited about what the future holds for COCA, and together we are committed to working collaboratively to find the right person for the job and for the community. And in the meantime, the COCA Board of Directors has placed their confidence in me to lead the organization temporarily. And that is why I'm before you today to present information about our grant programs. For nearly 20 years, COCA has contracted with Leon County to distribute grant dollars to arts and cultural organizations. And COCA is pleased to administer 4 different grant programs. And before I dive in, I think a bit of context is necessary to understand how we got to this point, and the great strides that we have made as a community that invests in arts and culture. In 1996, the City of Tallahassee funded a cultural grant program and contracted with us to design and implement it. Staff worked collaboratively with local arts organizations to create fair and rigorous guidelines. And then in 2000, we were contracted by Leon County to create and operate a similar grant program for you. In 2003, a community cultural plan was published which endorsed our granting system and recommended that we continue to award grants and enforce grant guidelines. The city and the county adopted the cultural plan along with its recommendation that COCA be the entity to implement it. In 2014, the revised cultural plan was published, and one of its main recommendations was for COCA to continue re-granting funds from the city and the county through a competitive grant process. It also recommended that we establish a new matching grant for capital improvements to arts, cultural, and heritage organizations in Leon County and Tallahassee, which we have done. The Cultural Facilities Matching Grant Program is going into its 4th year, and it offers support and funding for renovations, construction, acquisition, and equipping of cultural facilities in our area. The fiscal year that has just passed, we awarded more than 369,000 tourist development tax dollars to TCC, Lemoyne, Goodwood Museum, and the FAMU Black Archives. This grant is funded through a quarter-penny allocation of tourist development tax collections, and its use for this purpose is limited to 5 years. Applicants must match county funds dollar for dollar. 5 years ago, we implemented the Cultural Tourism Marketing Grant Program to help increase the visibility of our arts and cultural organizations. Funded by tourist development tax dollars, these grants have a maximum award of $3,000, which enable organizations to execute and evaluate effective promotional activities targeted towards attracting tourists to the Leon County area. This year, we awarded more than $68,000 to 23 organizations, including the Asian Coalition of Tallahassee, the John G. Riley Center and Museum, the Tallahassee Ballet, and the Tallahassee Community Chorus. The Division of Tourism is currently working in collaboration with us to develop a suite of low-cost marketing opportunities for cultural organizations to expand their reach. Our newest grant program is the Arts Education Grant, which we have designed and implemented 3 years ago with input from local arts educators. And this program is funded through private contributions by individuals and businesses. The maximum award is $500, and the goal is to remove financial barriers for arts educators to access resources and arts experiences for their students, as well as materials and equipment for their classrooms, and also specific professional development opportunities for their own continuing education. This year, we awarded just over $5,000 to 12 arts teachers in schools across our community. And it all started with our cultural grant program. Without that initial program, none of these others would have been possible. More than 20 years in the making, COCA's cultural grant is now a joint program funded by both the city and the county. TDT dollars represent about 86% of the total funding for this program. This year, we awarded just over $1 million total TDT and general revenue dollars to 21 organizations, including the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra, Theater Tallahassee, Tallahassee Museum, and the Southern Shakespeare Company, just to name a few. As with all of our grant programs, COCA offers free technical reviews, consultations, and grant writing workshops. We also enforce reporting requirements to ensure the compliance and accountability of our grantees. We have a strong cultural grant program. We also have a philosophical dilemma. With a thriving cultural community that's growing each year and limited funding sources, we are faced with a need greater than funding allows. This is not unusual. Almost all grant programs face this issue, and that's why we've developed a competitive and rigorous program. The FY19 grant cycle was one of the most competitive we've ever seen. As is the case every year, a group of volunteer grant panelists reviewed and ranked the applications. The scores were all extremely high, and it became clear that once the funding was exhausted, many worthy programs would go unfunded. After much discussion and debate, the COCA Board of Directors ultimately voted to adjust the funding formula used to determine the recommended maximum funding for request. The belief was that this would spread the dollars to more organizations. This was not a unanimous decision, and several cultural organizations were unhappy with the outcome. While this past grant cycle was challenging, it has given us an opportunity to strengthen an effective and time-tested process. Though we review our grant process and administrative oversights every year with community input, this year we created an additional board subcommittee to take a deeper dive. With input from the grant applicants themselves, legal counsel, and other community stakeholders, we've been able to identify areas for revision, some of which we anticipate implementing in the upcoming grant cycle, including clarification of the funding formula language and changes to the request for reconsideration policy. These and other possibilities will be discussed at our next board meeting, and our goal is to have the revised cultural grant guidelines available by early May. Other possible changes include a fast-track application for organizations requesting small amounts. We've also reignited a discussion of a shared application system in partnership with the Division of Tourism and possibly the CRA, allowing for a more streamlined process for cultural organizations that receive grant funding from any combination of those organizations. Both of these examples require more discussion to determine the feasibility and potential steps for implementation. We are extremely optimistic about the future of the cultural grant program. This year, the TDT collection is projected to increase, and consequently, we anticipate an increase to the cultural grant funding as well. Because of the great work done by Leon County, the Division of Tourism, and many other stakeholders, we predict that the increase in TDT collections will help the grant programs keep pace with the growth of our cultural community. Thank you.
Moving on. Any questions? Okay. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, ma'am, for
Yes.
the presentation. This is an agenda item? Oh, it's not? Okay.
Just a report. I have Commissioner Maddox and then Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think, thank you, Amanda, for the presentation. I'm actually on
Absolutely.
the board, and Madam Chair, you're doing an excellent job of leading us through the process of trying to find a new executive director. And given the fact of the information that was shared today and the fact that that the organization will have a new executive director coming here pretty soon, I believe you said July 22nd was going to be the date of the hire, correct?
We're anticipating a hire hopefully sometime in May, and then an established person in that position in early June.
I would actually ask or make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we postpone or table the agenda item that's supposed to come back for a year. to actually get the executive director in place and give them the opportunity to get through this grants process and then review it then. That would be my motion.
I'd second that for discussion.
Yes, sir.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. We do have discussion on the item. Commissioner Dozier and then Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amanda, thank you. And stepping in quickly to take on a job that you know intimately, I believe, for being there for so long. So thanks for all your work and for the board's work, Commissioner Maddox, for your service for us. So, pause for musical interlude. Thank you for the update about, I knew that you all had established a board committee to look at the grant review process, or the grant process, the appeals process, and everything like that after last year. I know we all got some emails, even though this was a COCA board decision, in August, September of last year. So I'm really happy to hear that you've got some clarification going to your board that could be implemented this year. I think that's great. And one of the things that stood out for those organizations, I'll say, that benefited from the shift last year and those who may have been impacted negatively by it, one common theme was a clarity on the appeals process. So I think you're hitting that, and that does sound great. Commissioner Maddox, this larger conversation that we talked about having at the retreat in December, I realized that with COCA going through some transition, there may need to be a delay in that agenda item. I would be more interested in having it in the fall to get ahead of next year's next year's grant cycle. Forgive me for my language right now. So having it in October, November, that's when we have typically had those types of presentation. I think you will have wrapped up your grant cycle by that time. And it's concluded in September. Is that right, Amanda?
It typically concludes in about September, but we don't begin actually releasing any funds until the budget is approved.
Of course,
Yeah.
right. But your grant process concludes. So
Yes.
going through one more grant process with the changes that you've already made, that will allow the new executive director to be on staff through that process over the summer, hopefully. And if we could have a presentation in October going into our discussion for our FY20 year, I think that will help us. And again, this discussion was reflecting back on what we had heard a few months ago. So I think, you all have already got a lot of content, and it would allow us to hear more of the results from your committee, what the board approved, and how those changes affected this year's grant process. So that could be really a good time to get a summary report from COCA on the status of the grants.
To answer that, Commissioner Dozier, I think that by that time, the executive director, if all the timelines are hit, all the timelines are hit as far as the hiring will be there approximately about 5 months. I do understand where you're coming from, but I would like whoever the next leader of the organization to be there a little longer. Maybe if we had a presentation come back from the executive director, then I would be more apt to do that than a actual agenda item. But I don't know about an agenda item. I feel like that I would want the executive director in that position a little longer before we heard from the executive director about what they think of the grants process and what their plans are moving forward.
I respect your position on that for sure. I think waiting a year gets us in the middle of budget. This is an incredibly busy time of year for all of us. You're starting your grant process for this year. So I am going to make a substitute motion to have that agenda item come back in October, knowing that we'll get an update on this grant process, but even a year for a new hire can be, you're still getting your sea legs or your arts legs by that point. So I do understand your concern, but I'd rather have this agenda item before our retreat and before we get into budget. So I'll make a substitute motion to have it in October.
All right, I think a substitute motion has been made. Am I correct? Is there a second? All right, there are other commissioners in queue for discussion. Commissioner Deloge, then
Thank-
Commissioner Proctor, then Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a tendency to agree with you, Commissioner Dozier, within limits. I yield to Commissioner Maddox a little bit because of the fact that I think you're the COCA representative, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
But I hear what you're saying. I wonder if there's a way we could just kind of split the baby here and say, how about we wait till the new director's hired and we just do a gut check in a perfect world, it would be great if they could come in and give us a report before we go into our strategic plan because it has some impact, and certainly before we get too far down the road. But I'm inclined to think if they come in May and we sit down and shoot for the end of the year type of thing, and the presentation's fine by me. I don't know that we need to have an agenda item, but certainly the new director should be in here. We should understand what's going on, and then we have a sense of how things are going. But I think that gets us to most of where y'all want to be, which is, as soon as the new director's hired, let's just do a time check and figure out what's realistic, and 5-6 months sounds realistic to me, and have it as a presentation with that.
I can accept that.
And that was close to what you were getting to. You wanted to do an agenda item, though.
Mr. Chair, on point,
Commissioner Dozier.
just to bring us back to the conversation in December, given the questions that came up, and again, COCA Board and staff have worked hard to address some of those concerns that we heard last fall, so that is fantastic. As you went through the history, Amanda, we have had a cultural grant program for a really long time. I don't think we've added new programs, so we haven't stepped back just to look at all of these various factors. The appeals issue was a big issue. We approved an agenda item at our December retreat. So that's how it is, and with a presentation in advance of that agenda item. So that's what the motion at the retreat was. And I think that's what the staff direction was and what we approved in our ratification item. So we had requested an agenda item, and an update from the executive director, I could easily wait a year to have that. This was an agenda item to hear what COCA is doing on the grant process to update things and address some of those concerns that we heard.
I mean, we're splitting hairs. I think 6 of one, half dozen of another. Shoot for the end of the year, ask the director when she comes on, and that's my take.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So whether it's an agenda's fine. I mean, the presentation versus an agenda, we're not talking about a world of difference here. So I would take your original motion and just basically amend it effectively, if that's okay with you.
Would your amendment be to have the presentation come back in October?
End of the year. How about that? And let's ask the new director, whenever that person comes on and says, what are you comfortable with the board? And y'all can say, wow, she's already halfway down the road. This is not going to be a problem. Or, wow, there's more to this. But I don't think the end of the year is 5 or 6 months. It's plenty of time for someone to get up and get going.
So my motion would be amended to include a presentation at the end of the year with our revisiting this agenda item in a full year.
Okay. I may get you to repeat that before we take a vote. Let's go ahead and hear from Commissioner Proctor and Commissioner Minor, and then I believe Commissioner Dozier one more time, and then Commissioner Lindley. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I defer to the motion made by Commissioner Maddox in that he is our sitting commissioner on this board. And so I would support his firsthand take and would respect and trust his judgment in the motion that he's made. That's why I would, whatever his motion is, I would support it. I don't know. I heard the term that you all were streaming to a grant process with the CRA, and I don't favor a streaming of the cultural board with the CRA in any capacity in that way. In terms of the CRA's practices of allowing for those persons who are seeking cultural, whatever that word means, opportunities, that one person named Manning controls and shuts out, strangleholds who gets to come before the CRA board and who does not. It's a pitiful process that when the board does not receive the, and I know that we've moved in our community to a boutique format of politics, boutique commissioning. And we don't do the heavy lifting as a commission, as board, some of us. And we want the staff to streamline and just bring us only the best is in the cherry-picked. Sometimes we signal who we want to come through the process, and everybody don't get to come in front of the whole board because we've got staff people, gatekeepers, blocking, okay? So if COCA is going to streamline with CRA, I'm not supporting a dollar at all. And I just want the commission to know where I feel and why. Their process is not right. It's a process that if you've not read the paper and the new director who's coming don't know. There's been a whole lot of FBI inquiry about. And I don't know why this board would encourage you to go with a process that has a lot of questions, but we're still unclear about what's going on in those processes. I would bid you to please caution and don't go near the CRA, because we don't know how that's going to explode, implode, or how it works out. That I couldn't support y'all, not $1 down that street. I continue to implore you, Commissioner Maddox, that this cultural process does not become boutique, and that this entire community, black people included, can be a part of those who receive resources, and that we don't fancy up a process that only the people who have watches that you can, touch your watch and you can watch up and connect and dot, 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 dot. Let's make the thing a plain, open, reasonable, accessible process, la-di-da-di, and anybody can be a participant in and get a fair shake in ranking of the projects or whatever y'all do to decide who's going to get some money. And I believe also that in terms of the projected programming for a given year programmatically, I think that there ought to be a delineation of culture. If we're talking about songs, we're talking about plays, we're talking about crafts and arts, and we're talking about painting, that percentage, that breakdown, that we do have diversity of culture as well as we have cultural diversity. And those are two words that mean different things, the diversity of culture as well as cultural diversity. And I think there has to be a balance between those things. And I just simply, because you're standing and I guess you're soliciting our input, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Thompson, I just wanted to kind of go back about 4 years when I was a member of a KCCI team, and our team came to the COCA offices to meet with you to talk about this project that we had called Tallahassee Music Week. And we knew nothing about hosting that type of event. But were it not for you and your team, it would not have been a success. And I just wanted to commend you and everyone at COCA. I saw firsthand, working side by side with you and others at the COCA office, how dedicated, passionate you all are about promoting culture and arts in this community. And so Leon County residents are well served by COCA. And I wanted to commend you for everything that you do. Good luck. Best wishes on hiring an executive director over these next few months. I know we all are looking for a process during the grant, the cultural grant that is open and transparent. I know you want the same thing. And we're looking forward to the new executive director and that process being hashed out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. At this point, the motion has been made and seconded. You want to repeat it quickly?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, the motion on the floor is that we would table the agenda item, this grants review agenda item for a year with a presentation coming back from the executive director at the end of this year, so anywhere between October and December.
All right, and we've received a second from Commissioner Deloge when we added the language. So all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Administrator, we're moving on to consent agenda. Are there any consent items pulled at this time?
We have, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We have 2 consent items pulled, 12 and 14.
Motion has been made to remove remaining, exempting 12 and 14. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lindley. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Consent item number 12 seeks the board's support of a strategic initiative to be designated a solar smart community by developing an ordinance that provides standards for solar energy systems. This item was pulled by Commissioner Dozier. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Dozier for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I would like to make a motion for option 1 as is. I have a couple other comments, but I'd like to make a motion for option 1.
Seconded by Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I am really thrilled that we're moving forward with this, and I look forward to the ordinance coming back. Reading through this and reflecting on some comments, our new mayor, who knows the county very well, made at an Innovation Park Board meeting. He was suggesting that the city should look at partnering with Leon County on larger scale solar. And I know we're all in this conversation, both county and city, with looking for more renewables. So, Ms. County Administrator, I'm wondering if when we get the agenda item back with the draft ordinance, if we could also have some information about the status of solar with the City of Tallahassee Utilities, Talquin. I assume there may be some other small franchises in different areas of the community we may need to touch base with, but those being the 2 biggest ones. The questions about banking your power, having the credits, things like that, those are often questions that come up from residents. They may be living in the county, permitted through us, but be on city utilities. So I think having an understanding of where the city is now, if they plan to change those things in the future, would be beneficial to us. I would also love to ask the city if they, and we could do this in a mayor-chair meeting or through the county administrator and the city manager, but if they are interested in having some alignment, since we're looking at it, how we permit solar. And in the county, we may have more room for larger scale solar farms, other things like that. This is not only going to raise those questions I mentioned a moment ago with how the utilities deal with that, but it could also raise questions about whether or not the city wants to be a solar smart community. If we could have the same checklist for permit applications, that would certainly help the development community, residents. So I just want to take this opportunity to kind of use this ordinance drafting to take the next step in reaching out to the city so we can see if they're open to working with us. County Administrator, is that?
Mr. Administrator.
That's clear, I got it.
Okay.
We'll make sure we bring it back, included in the item when it comes back as an ordinance, and even if that is taking it up at the mayor chair if one happens before, in between now and then.
Do you need that to be part of the motion, or?
I don't think so. I think we'll just take that as direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Unless anyone else had any other comments on that, Mr. Chair, that didn't support that. I really appreciate that, Ms. County Administrator, and I look forward to seeing this come back. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have up for discussion Commissioner Deloge and then Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think PACE, we just expanded PACE into the commercial side, and I think in your list of kind of solar-related kind of entities here, I think it makes some sense to try and include that as well as we could. And frankly, it might not be a bad idea to have all of that somewhere on the website that says, you know, here's a link to the city's program, here's a link to PACE, here's a link to that, because oftentimes people, it's hard to find all that in one place. So just a thought. Nice.
Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here again is an opportunity for, in addition to what Commissioner Dozier has suggested, the county ought to explore stepping into the solar game as the city has erected a solar farm. Is there any reason or hesitation that we should have that inhibits us from, entrepreneurially speaking, stepping into solar. The sun shines typically in the county as strongly as it does in the city. The same solar and sunlight that the city could profit from, is it not attainable that we could do the same thing? I think that the angle we ought to consider is if the city is taking a business interest in the same sunlight, are we swift enough of mind and thought, daring, courage, heart, imagination to do the same thing? So I'm clearly seeing that for a state that receives, from my understanding, the most daylight of any particular state in the union, and one of the things that we've not done with the daylight which we receive as the leading state of sun in the union is to capture and to be a leader of solar energy in the nation. Amazing. Is there anything that prohibits this body's interest in securing and becoming a major stakeholder in producing solar energy? I think that this community this board had perhaps a chance to become the leader of utilities in the 1930s. We didn't. We had an opportunity to purchase and go wide in purchasing right away for Capital Circle 50 years ago, and we didn't. And here we are in the infancy stage of solar development, and shall it also be said 40 years from now that we didn't. My interest is that our county administrator would also look at the possibilities of us, if the city don't want to work with us and be a collaborator, do our own thing. That's my interest. So I appreciate you asking, were there other points of interest, and those are mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. A motion has been made to accept option 1 by Commissioner Dozier and seconded by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign.
Chairman, will my comments heard by staff or received?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
It may be something that the board, if the board wishes for us to engage in something that starts to approach a feasibility analysis of some sort in the area of solar, we'd probably need a standalone item. We have gone there. Commissioner Proctor asked the question of what would stop us. I would say sort of off the cuff that only economics. and the issue is really one of, for a utility provider to get into that business, they do so not as a money maker, but as an offset for the most part, and for the purposes of diversifying their energy mix. For us to do it as a standalone entity, I would suggest the feasibility analysis would probably come back as not one that has a return of investment in this millennium. But again, we would be happy to explore that. Would probably be something that the board might wish to provide a specific direction on.
Well, I just say to that, Mr. Chairman, that I'm not sure if it's real or not, but likelihood from what I heard in Washington last week is that the manner in which the city of Tallahassee now produces energy, it likely would be counterproductive to that thing called global warming, and it may not be premature, and it may even be costly now, but just possibly global warming is something that would eventually require, if we get serious about it, a look at solar. And I say that in the context of those thoughts as well. Didn't want to say it to be ignored. If it's too big of cognitive reach, then I'll accept that.
On point, I believe we have Commissioner Dozier, then Commissioner Deloge, then Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quickly, Commissioner Proctor, I appreciate your thoughts on that. I think there's a new opportunity with the mayor and the city commission, some of the comments I've heard recently. Most specifically, the mayor spoke to the property around the airport. It is the location that was selected in the past for their solar arrays. There may be other locations, not to speak for him, but that he had referenced outside of the city limits. And I think the city, we worked for a year on our sustainability compact. It's still ongoing. We are all focused on increasing our renewables, and the city is now looking at that more in depth on the utility production. So if we open a dialogue, this is exactly why I wanted to bring my comments in today. If we open a dialogue now with the city as they're working through their ways of diversifying their energy source, it may be a perfect time for us to partner. Having said that, they do own the utility. So the ability to do a larger scale solar array is more in the city's wheelhouse, I believe, to construct that, to build it, or to partner with a company like they did before than for us. But we have other components that they may need. So I think this is a new opportunity for a partnership that aligns with our ongoing goals, as we've been talking about for years, I'll say 12 years, but certainly only in the last year and a half, and to build on that. So I think this information may help us take the next steps.
Okay, I'm just saying that what the city is doing for production of energy is antiquated and it counterproductive to the needs of the future for our earth. That's my point.
Commissioner Deloge, then Commissioner Minor, and Commissioner Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we continue to try and figure out any way we can partner, but I agree with the administrator's comments. I mean, we're getting close on this, but the economics don't work unless you have some extenuating reason. If you remember, we ran not one, but two runs at trying to turn what is now the Appalachia Regional Park into a solar farm, and the economics just didn't work. From memory, we just didn't have anybody that was willing to come in and partner with us. I know when Maggie first came here on a personal level, we went around to all the buildings and decided, is there a solar opportunity? And I think the jail was the only one that maybe fell into that. So, I mean, I think it's worthwhile to continue to revisit this stuff, and as the city steps up, we certainly partner with them to the degree we can. But I don't want to get too far out in front of this, but good comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Proctor, I definitely heard you. I think it was the January 30th City Commission meeting. For some reason, I was surfing channels and watched the meeting where they talked about their sustainability compact to go 100% renewables by 2050. And for the city, with being the utility, the public utility for us to basically make that claim and that pledge is a major commitment. It's a Herculean task for them to convert to renewables 100% by 2050. So as you were talking, I was thinking about what their commitment is and what they've demonstrated publicly. I'm optimistic about them moving forward, and I think I bring this up because I think there are ripe opportunities for us to work with them and partner with them to help them get to that 2050 goal.
Commissioner Lindley.
Just a couple of comments. One, I was really proud that the county is already installing solar panels on county buildings. So we are well underway on what we can actually attend to and set an example of. And Sol Smart is our way of, for lack of a better word, marketing and encouraging local private efforts around here for solar energy. The 2050 goal, even though I think it sounds great, I just look back on all the changes that have come in every sort of technology and even the last 10 years. So I strive to see how we could actually stick on that same goal for 30 years in solar. We have no idea what will be around at that time. I'm very happy with supporting the city in every way possible, but I think the reality is the utility is in their that's theirs, and it's not ours, and we're not going to be able to get there except probably as a support system and a convener. So I appreciate this conversation. Ready to vote.
Thank you all for those comments. Moving on to other items pulled from the consent agenda, Mr. Administrator. I'm sorry, Rick, were you back in queue?
No, there was a motion for option one.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we voted.
Okay. Next item, Commissioners, is item number 14, which has been pulled from consent, which seeks your approval of a supervised pretrial release program 2018 annual report. This was pulled by Commissioner Lindley, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yeah, I pulled this largely because I wanted everyone to sort of pay some close attention to that, since we are going to have a discussion during our budget workshops on possibly taking over a larger percentage or the entire percentage of the pretrial release cost. I've been speaking to the sheriff, the state attorney, the public defender, and others, and we know that any such change could be massive. It could affect the bail bonds profession, it could increase cost for the sheriff deputies doing, to some extent, doing the work of what bail bondsmen are doing now. So I do think that this is a very serious issue. At the onset, when I suggested it, I am interested in seeing what we can do to make incremental progress, because the whole issue of monetary bail is of nationwide concern in terms of its unjust approach in a lot of ways for people who don't have the money to pay bonds. They are sitting there in our jail, which is suffering to some extent. It's not the best place for a lot of the folks who are awaiting trial on relatively minor offenses. So I just wanted to call this to everyone's attention. We're going to be talking about it in a lot more detail coming up soon. And I wanted to thank Teresa for a good report and appreciate your drilling in and getting us the most current figures on this. Thank you. With that, I move option 1.
Motion's been made and seconded. There are 2 commissioners in line to speak, Commissioner Dozier and Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had thought about pulling this item and didn't, so thank you, Mr. Lindley, for giving us the opportunity here. And I'm not sure if these questions need to be answered right now, although I see Teresa coming up to the microphone. Mr. County Administrator, we could address them now, or we could address them in our budget item when it comes back. I found this item fascinating, and I think it was very helpful in thinking about that future budget item. It shows $13 million estimated savings for keeping people out of the detention center, and that doesn't even get to the lives that were impacted and everything else. So, I mean, this is a substantial program, and really appreciate the efforts of our staff and everyone who works on it. It cannot be easy. And I guess, Mr. Chair, I'll take direction from you or the County Administrator on a couple of questions. I had a question about the types of questions and documentation that we've got in the report, the consistency of that. Would you prefer, Mr. Chair, that I save those questions for our budget item, or
I would defer to the County Administrator for that.
It's really whatever the preference of the board is. We're happy to answer them right now if you'd like to dispense with that.
I can make it quick for 2 quick questions.
Teresa's here. Teresa, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Teresa. I saw you jump up right when I said I had a couple questions.
Okay.
So, in my role, the board's appointee to the Continuum of Care Board with homelessness, and in some meetings with the sheriff last year, I understood from everyone in the room, whether it's the Public Defender's Office, Sheriff's Department, the Kearney Center, others, I think Monique's still sitting behind you, so there was other comments about this, that noting whether or not someone was homeless on the intake form was really critical to make sure they have services after while they're in the detention center, in pretrial release, or when they are released from the detention center. So I noted on this that that information is not being documented or asked about indigent status. But do you ask about permanent housing or other things like that, information that may help connect them to resources in the community?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The questions that are in the pretrial intake interview at this moment were developed by the judiciary, and it does ask questions regarding the residency, who they live with, how long they've lived in the local area. In addition, we're currently transitioning over to the ORAS, which is a new risk assessment tool, and it dives a little bit deeper into the housing needs.
Okay. I think my understanding from those that I've spoken with in past, that simply saying they don't have a current address isn't the same as saying they're homeless, and that documentation would help connect them to services later. So I would love to hear more about that in the future, but that one piece really stood out to me as we talk about reentry programs. The other more general question I have is, and I can't believe that I actually got through it, but it was fascinating. I was on a plane, so I read the entire attachment with all of the different people who went through pretrial release. And the offenses are many minor, as Commissioner Lindley said, but some of them don't appear as minor as others. There's some abuse, child abuse, domestic abuse, other things like that. But mostly I noted there isn't consistency in how they're described, whether it was charged with a controlled substance versus naming what that controlled substance was. Is this new system you're talking about going to give us a little more consistency in how the offense might be described?
No, ma'am. Those are actually determined by Florida statute and how the arresting officer books them into the judicial information system.
Okay, so you're lifting directly from whatever the officer wrote down. So if they just wrote down controlled substance but didn't indicate what type, that's all the information you have?
Correct. It's based on that charge literal out of that judicial information system, which is utilized by all criminal justice stakeholders in Leon County.
That's fascinating to me, and thank you very much, Teresa. That was it. Mr. County Administrator, I just noted that one piece because as we wrap our arms around crime in general in the community, I think it's good for all of us to know exactly what we're talking about, and there are a lot of different ways of describing what looks like similar offenses. So maybe that's something we can encourage our law enforcement partners to look at in the future. But thank you very much for your efforts, Teresa. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Hopefully, Teresa, you didn't step off too early. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, this is an area in which you allow me to represent you on the Public Safety Coordinating Council. Florida statutes mandate our efforts to reduce the jail presence of inmates in the counties to the extent that we can programmatically to do all that we can to lower our inmate population. It was recently, maybe a week or two, in which I saw and wanted to make a comment publicly about a young man whose name is Segura. And Mr. Segura is charged with a capital offense of murdering a mother and 3 children. I've talked to his family, his mother specifically, his sister specifically, and other persons who take an interest in his life. When I read in the newspaper of the Tallahassee Democrat that Mr. Segura had been out at Leon County a total of, I think it was, they reported 2,700, and I believe it was 3 days, just off the top that I'm trying to remember. But putting the calculator to 2,700 days, it brought me to Leon County's taxpayers having input an amount of $230,000 to house one gentleman, to which the state of Florida, after 9 years of being captive in jail, has not resolved charges against someone for 9 years. I find that deplorable. I find that intolerable, and I ponder what it is about the wheels of justice that still, after 9 years and $230,000 by our Leon County taxpayers, this man can't get a resolution to a murder he's alleged to have committed. I saw recently last week that a motion had been made to hopefully to allow for someone who's admitted to, confess to this, and the people who are offering confession somehow not being allowed to be introduced. I ponder this. Chairing the Public Safety Council, Teresa, we get a lot of data, and I think that it's been a while since the board, we've had a workshop on, I think, the largest ticket item that we fund is Leon County Jail. And it's been years now since we have received, I'm not saying accountability, but an understanding that we're a new commission. And I'd like to see our new sheriff come in and tell us what his goals and targets are with the inmates, what programs with the money that we give he's parsing out, distributing. I think that we need and ought to know the operational standards. And I'm not sure if I copied you commissioners on that letter, but a few weeks ago, we read in the newspaper that state senator, representative, and others did a tour of Lee County Jail, and that women were not being treated right in accordance with what womanhood standards require. And the sheriff has allowed for and given permission to me to assemble a team of ladies and women, professionals to come and interview female inmates there. But I think that when the county's commission is silent and the county's commission that funds the jail does not ring any bells or hold any accountability standards or seek to understand what that entity is, anything can happen. So I would love and request this board at some point in our dear future to hold a workshop on the jail, its processes, what they're trying to do with these people's lives, how many of these people sitting out there ain't got money on piddly diddly crimes. Is there anything that we could do? This data that Teresa has and shares with us all the time is something, commissioners, that I'm hoping that you just wouldn't leave me out there in the flood of human crisis alone. It would mean a lot to me if you all would share interest in this heavy category of work where people are flailing, and one person out there is 9 years deep and steep in our pockets, and we still got to pay. And that does not include, that's just, Teresa, your costs are like, I did $85 to get to $230, but when I saw that your number said inmate cost is $81.34 a night, that brought it down from what I was using, $85, but you said $81.34. That does mean that we've only spent $220,000 to house the one inmate on 2,703 nights. However, when you consider this particular inmate, there's been tests, there's been medical fees, there's been security issues, and all kinds of review that requires man hours to be focused. This is at least probably a $270,000 inmate. And I think that when we, as a county commission, when we have a citizen of the community that can't get to the end of the criminal justice line, we should have something to say about that, because it's costing us just for him to go on. This could go on another, who knows, 9 years. So I'm asking commissioners if in our future somewhere, if time permits us, that we would receive an update from the jail and what's going on with the people who encounter law enforcement.
I'd second that.
All right, motion has been made. Was it in the form of a workshop, Commissioner Proctor?
Yes, a workshop.
Okay. A future workshop?
Sure. I would.
What was our original motion?
Yeah, we can accept that.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, we are going to be discussing all of this in length at that particular time when we do the discussion of non-monetary bail.
I thought that was one element.
Yeah, let me,
and it's not going to address people
Commissioner
who are-
Lindley, let me let I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's one
Let me let him
element.
address what we will be talking about at the April budget meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Administrator.
Take it away.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you have a budget discussion item that's going to come before you at the April budget workshop. I think as Commissioner Lindley and Commissioner Proctor have both correctly noted, that would be focused on the pretrial and the bail issues. It currently was not contemplated, and I think that the motion that Commissioner Proctor offered was to have a workshop on jail operations policies, so it would expand that significantly. So either we could roll it into the budget workshop, or we could have a standalone item. It's whatever the board's direction is. Standalone budget, standalone workshop, rather.
I think our first business is to finish up with the original motion, and then we'll take yours up. The original motion was to accept the annual report made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Now, Commissioner Proctor, you want to...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I offer a slightly larger review, comprehensive review of the Leon County jail, its operations, its processes, who gets to go there, how long, what are the expectations of their being there, how do citizens interact, how do you get medication to people who are ill. There have been some changing standards with medication coming to inmates, the partnership that exists now with Appalachia, the mental health categories, and et cetera, those things. I make that motion.
I think I understand the motion is to take a deeper dive into exactly what is occurring with inmates at the Leon County Detention Facility. It's been seconded by Commissioner Deloge to take a deeper dive and to look into that. On point, Commissioner Dozier, and then we'll vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. County Administrator, just a quick question on this. I don't mind at all looking at the detention center specifically. It is a key issue, and I think the sheriff has made a lot of changes there, as have all the staff and LSCO. We don't have direct control over the operations of the detention center. Is that right, Mr. County Administrator? We work on the facilities.
You don't have direct control, but you do have responsibility for it.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question, the budgetary responsibility. If we were going to go into a workshop setting, I would be more interested in broadening it out, looking at detention center, looking at pretrial, these other components, reentry, things like that. We're working on a lot of different components here, and getting our arms wrapped around kind of, I'll use the word continuum, from arrest through reentry, I think might be very helpful for us, because we've got a lot of various things. I'm okay with the workshop. I just, I think to bring folks in, to take that time and to do an agenda item, or a workshop item like that, it might be beneficial to us to broaden the scope a little. Thank you.
And on point, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't push this upon commissioners, but Teresa and Wanda, you're aware that we've actually, as a public safety council, we've actually toured the facility to lay eyes upon it. We have met there on another occasion. We've dined there. So to make sure that we had bearings about this instrument, which is the number one largest entity which we fund, and our tax dollars from this board goes to, our little committee has tried to be there and understand the dynamics of what often we're charged with oversight to lower its number. And, from what Commissioner Dozier is actually saying, there may be a Part A, which may compel a tour prior to that workshop, maybe, but, our appetites are different. And definitely when you go there, sometimes some of my excursions and tours of the jail, Sunday school lessons sometimes are not the conversations that you hear. So it can offend sensitivities if you're not ready. But I'm very open to what you've shared, Commissioner Dozier, as a more thorough reach of.
And so let me see if I can word it, and then I'll, on point for you, Commissioner Lindley, I promise, a comprehensive look at jail operations. Is that what you have, Mr. Administrator?
Yes, it is.
A workshop that focuses on a comprehensive look at jail operations. Is that accurate? All right. Commissioner Lindley, and then we'll vote.
Right, just on point. I think I agree with Commissioner Dozier. There's so much of this that's involved with the court system. I know I'm speaking with Judge Hostrom. There are some possible proposals coming up that might address the lengthy stays, not probably of those charged with capital offenses, but some of the others. I think it might be very interesting to hear from the sheriff. I'm not sure how helpful it will be. because there's so many players, I would dare say even the state legislatures that work on some of these issues regarding mental health issues. So I kind of have mixed emotions about bringing the sheriff in for this right now. He's already facing I think there's an ACLU lawsuit that's going to limit some of what he is able to discuss. So I think I'm going to vote against having this workshop at this time, appreciating that at some point it might be more useful than it would be right now. And I have toured the jail fairly recently.
Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you begin with the end in mind, and you start with what's going on at the jail, and that's where ultimately it's half the sheriff's budget, give or take. And yeah, as Commissioner Proctor pointed out, we have an immense amount of people that are in jail that shouldn't be there, and it's not the sheriff's fault, but he's the recipient of this. And so what we need to do is figure out how do we get around that. It might be some of the other programs that are being done around the country, but I think you start with that, and then maybe that's the catalyst to have further conversations. I think educating us is a starting point. So anyway, I think I'm going to support it as it stands. Thanks.
Okay, so we've had all the speakers to speak. The original item, or the original motion was to take a look at the pretrial release program and an in-depth look at that. It was amended to a comprehensive look in a workshop review or in a workshop format.
It's an independent motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, two separate motions,
Independent
okay.
motion. Yes, sir.
All right, well then we're going to take up the first motion, which was to take a very in-depth look at the pretrial. Was there a second to the motion for a comprehensive look?
Deloge did. And we voted the first one, okay?
Okay.
We voted the first motion, and now the one you allowed me to make of calling for the workshop of a comprehensive.
Okay, so we have a second motion that we are looking at for a comprehensive look into workshop on the jail, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and was there a second to that motion?
Yeah, I second that.
Deloge.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 6-1. I think this would be a good time, since we are just now finishing the consent agenda, to remind you that we have a joint city and county comprehensive plan review at 6 o'clock tonight. We are going to press forward and try to reach that time and also allow us a few moments to grab something to eat. I believe we're at the citizens to be heard on non-agenda items. Mr. Administrator.
I have no citizens to be heard on non-agenda items, Mr. Chairman.
Is that you do not?
We do not.
Okay. No citizens to be heard on non-agenda items. We will.
I've got a card in for you, Mr. Holyfield, on item 19. Okay, well, I don't have a card for you for that, but Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to recognize that.
Sure, Mr. Holyfield. Come on up and give your name and address for the record, and you'll get your 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Dr. Holyfield. I apologize.
That's okay. As you know, or probably know, Roxanne Manning of the CRA says I should not be called Dr. Holyfield. They never run out of ways to insult people. But there are a number, I really came here in intent to speak on this purpose-built propaganda thing that nobody seems to know about. But I can await my time in regard to that. But there are numbers, and it's interesting to hear about this jail situation. Because I had called a jail, I don't know, it may have been a year ago or something. Because I was concerned that things affecting the jail never seemed to get discussed. Like the quality of the health care, and whether or not that has ever been audited. What kind of grades they get for the quality of health care. Yeah, I called out there. I called out there in regard to women, pregnant women And what happens to them? And what happens to those babies, when they give birth? And are those pregnant women locked up in jail for minimal charges as well because they can't meet bail? And then what happens when those women with minimal charges give birth? Are they separated from their mothers? Which is, typical with immigration people? Are those babies separated? Some jails have nurseries. The importance of breastfeeding is well known. If a woman in jail gives birth, should she not have the options as far as breastfeeding is concerned? When it's been demonstrated that it saves lives? Even though I couldn't get any support in regard to breastfeeding with people like Old Child Leon and Lori Dozier. So we have situations that exist that simply are not addressed. When I called out to the jail, again, maybe more than a year ago, they mentioned some for-profit organization. That's probably who you're going to be dealing with, some for-profit organization that ran the jails, or Coventry or something like that. I don't know if they still run them, but for some reason that name sticks in my mind. And let me take an extra minute here. Another thing y'all haven't discussed is leapfrog. And these ratings for patient safety, because the hospitals came up in regard to this purpose-built propaganda thing and how Mark O'Brien, I guess, is going to play a role. But Leapfrog gave Tallahassee Memorial a rating of D in regard to patient safety. And it's our hospital because it's a city-run hospital. We give Mark O'Brien $1.2 million for a D-rated hospital based on all of the infections and stuff that develop out there. So I think at one point y'all need to discuss Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and how it's being run and why it continues to get D ratings, C ratings from national organizations like Leapfrog. Hospital gets a D rating. It's a city-owned hospital. We pay Mark O'Brien $1.2 million to run a D-rated hospital, and nobody says anything. Absolutely unbelievable. So,
Dr. Holyfield, if you could wrap it up, please.
Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap it up, but I think y'all shouldn't be dismissive of this. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Minor up there. A 3.2% decrease in hunger, it says. But when you consider all of the money that exists in this community, and we have a 3.2% decrease in hunger, is that right, Mr. Manor? 3.7. Okay, I missed a couple of decimal points. 3.7% decrease in hunger. We should be ashamed. And it makes the front page of the Democrat. And I always wondered what it takes to make the front page of the Democrat besides FSU athletics.
Thank you,
But now I know if you get a 3.7% decrease in hunger, you make the front page of the Tallahassee Democrat. I think that's an outright shame.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Dr. Holyfield.
We have no more speaker cards, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on at this time to our general business. Item number 18, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, item number 18 seeks your approval of the county's planned actions to implement the strategic initiative increasing the quantity and quality of citizen input. Commissioners, you'll be seeing more items like these as we develop our action plans to implement your strategic initiatives in the strategic plan. As this item lays out, this action, of course, builds upon the county's already very robust ongoing citizen engagement efforts. We are recommending options 1 and 2, and we have no speakers on this item.
Any motion for option? All right. Motion made by Commissioner Deloge, I believe seconded by Commissioner Minor. Do have a couple of commissioners in queue to, well, it's lighting up like Christmas. Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Minor, and Commissioner Deloge, please.
Extremely quickly, Mr. Chair. I love all this item. Need to see lots of pictures of the coffee with the county administrator. No one should miss that one. Shout out to Leon County Sheriff's Department. I see them on Nextdoor app often, including a post today about the tornado. So I'm really glad we're joining there. And as a cord cutter, sorry Comcast and everybody else, I am thrilled with the item on cord cutting. And this is going to increase our access to our meetings, to other things, and the dollar amounts. Thank you, Mr. County Administrator, for digging into that. I'm really excited about that piece. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Minor, then Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick as well. You all have heard me say this before. You know, when I campaigned for the county commission last year, I always heard about citizens' request for more opportunities for civic engagement and public input. And I see this as probably the only thing I remember from calculus. You know, you can always approach but never quite get there, right? But we always need to keep trying. And so when I read this agenda item, I was very happy. Before I got here, the county commission has had years, the county has had years of, in my opinion, being a leader in asking for public input and citizen feedback. And so this is just a continuation of that. I just want to commend the county administrator and the county staff for this agenda item.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Deloge and Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the coffee with the county administrator going to be kind of like comedians in cars getting coffee with Seinfeld? I'm all in.
You can start signing up for your reservations tonight. Commissioner Proctor.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I was trying to understand on attachment 1 to that there's a $75,000 pending on the community quarterback organization in support of the purpose-built housing model. And there's a,
It's our next item, Commissioner Proctor.
which one y'all on?
18.
Which one am I on?
We're on 18.
That's what I'm on.
I don't want you to ruin your time.
Okay, I want to make sure you all got a attachment 1. On 18.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have any kind of budget projection here of $7,000? Yes, sir. You do have that? All right. And on my sheet of paper, I have a projection of $75,000 flowing with this item as well on the quarterback organization.
No, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I believe that's 19.
Mr. Chair, if I can add a little bit of
Go ahead.
In item 18, there's a $7,000 expenditure from our contingency fund specifically for that item. In 19, staff gives us options of taking from that same contingency fund $75,000 or making it a budget discussion item for our upcoming budget discussion. But it's not contemplated in item number 18, so it can't. No matter what happens in item 18, it won't pass until item 19 if it's actually presented as an option.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Dozier tells me it was accidentally put. I'm reading a sheet of paper here. It's right here.
No, if I can just clarify, this is what you're looking at is a budgetary action form. It's really just perfunctory. It contemplates whatever budget action the board may take tonight, even though it's on 2 separate items. So again, it's intentional. It's supposed to be there. Okay. But again, it is just contemplating what might be your action on the next item, really as a means to just keep a tab, a running tab on the contingency should the board take certain actions tonight. So,
okay. Chairman, I was just mindful, didn't want to be duped with a bait and switch. Thank you very much. I know what I'm
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor, for keeping us on our toes. Motion has been made for options 1 and 2. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 19. Mr. Administrator.
Okay, Commissioners, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This item establishes the board's maximum discretionary levels and provides to the staff initial policy guidance early on in the budget process. Commissioners, consistent with the board policy and a budget calendar that continues to guide a very deliberate budget process here at the county, you establish maximum discretionary funding levels for outside agencies prior to March 31st each year by ordinance. This includes CHSP and other non-departmental budgets that are included in this item. The analysis provides the basis for staff's recommendations on options 1, 2, and 3, which are all very straightforward. However, we're also seeking your guidance in how you'd like to proceed early on here in the budget process on 2 other outside agency requests included in this item from 1, the Kearney Center, and also from the Community Quarterback Organization associated with our purpose build efforts ongoing in the community. Commissioners, as you can see, we've included a range of options for each of the requests. Here, we're happy to answer questions you might have. I do want to note, however, for the record, that while we do not have speaker cards in for the purpose-built request, I just wanted to note that Representative Ausley, Brenda Williams, Christique Henry are here to answer any questions that you might have. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, if I could just chime in before we have any discussion on the items. If we could, I want you to kind of look at these in groups or sections. If we could dispense with item 1, 2, and 3.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Maddox and seconded by Commissioner Deloge.
Mr. Chair, on point. Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Minor, on point.
After conferring with our county attorney, I need to recuse myself on option 1 and on any motion that would contain option 1. So with the board's permission, I'd like to request that a motion be made separately for option 1 that I can recuse myself from.
I'll give my motion. Actually, I rescind my motion and make a motion for options number 2 and 3.
All right, options for number 2 and 3 from Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign.
Second.
Okay, now the motion has been made for option 1 by Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge, with Commissioner Minor recusing himself from the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign.
On the basis of an appearance of a conflict of interest.
Thank you. We do have one speaker card in record. Dr. Holyfield. State your name and address for the record. Dr. Holyfield, you got 3 minutes. I gave you 4.5 last time, so I'm going to cut you off at 3 minutes tonight.
I'll tell you right now, I need at least 4 on this.
Okay, well, you're going to get 3, so here we go.
No, seriously. Purpose-built what? I mean, it's like y'all never learn. You know, I call it purpose-built propaganda. But at least with propaganda, people know about it. Nobody knows about this purpose-built stuff. I mean, the city had, I guess, one workshop, and you had to either be there, I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or some god-awful hour. Either you saw it on tape or you were there, but nobody knows about this. Y'all make the same mistake over and over and over again. You ram stuff down people's throats, haven't been discussed, hasn't come back to the community, and that's exactly what this purpose-built stuff is. As I said, purpose-built propaganda. You know what y'all need to do? If you want to get rid of poverty, you look at Census Tract 10.01 with an 80.1% poverty as high as childhood poverty as high as 80.1% in Census Tract 10.01. And you ought to be looking at census tracts. This stuff about zip codes makes no sense at all. Zip codes change all the time. The Census Tract 10.01, that's what y'all need to look at. childhood poverty rate is high as 80.1%. How many of these children are going to this coca stuff y'all be talking about? How many of them have ever heard the Bach B minor mass? It doesn't even apply to certain areas of the city. So let's look at this purpose-built whatever. Again, this is done under the cover of darkness. It's been rammed through by Orsley, who voted for, what was that, stand your ground? All that did was help get Trayvon Martin killed. Whole child Leon, that's what's driving this. If you want to get rid of poverty, have Mark O'Brien, who gets $1.2 million, pay them janitors more than $9.25 an hour, which is what they reportedly get. This whole purpose-built stuff is done in the dark. Y'all need to go, you should have learned from that police station. You need to go back to the drawing boards and just have the community be in on this. Criticisms of it should be discussed. You could barely find it on the agenda. I called the county and asked, where's this purpose-built stuff going to be discussed? At first, I couldn't even identify it. It's hidden so, it's hidden so much. So I'm saying, do what you need to do. You need to go back to the community, discuss this madness, so you don't do the same kind of thing that you did with that police station that you wanted to put on the south side.
Thank you, Dr. Holyfield. We appreciate your time. All right, moving forward, we do have some folks in queue for discussion. Will we go ahead?
I'd like to move option
Go to
5.
item 19. I think what we'll do is, again, can I chime in?
Can I just move option 5?
I'd second that.
Okay.
Second the motion.
So we have a motion on the floor for option 5 and seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I wanted to weigh in, Mr. Chairman.
Other people in queue to speak?
Okay. I'm sorry, I thought they were from the last item. Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chair, I hold my comments.
Okay. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could the maker of the motion cite option 5, what that proposes to do?
Yeah, option 5 is to continue for 5 more years, supporting the Carney Center with $100,000 a year, contingent on the city agreeing to provide the same amount.
Very good. I support that.
All right, Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. County Administrator, with option number 5, this 5-year agreement would be approved contingent on the city, and we would not see this item come back to us in budget workshop. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would be included, though, in your budget approval process, but it wouldn't be a discrete item upon this direction.
Of course. I can support option 5. I do think that this particular extension gives us an opportunity to dig in a little bit more with the Carney Center, and I know we've got folks here, Monique, good to see you, and we discussed this today, to look at the long-term sustainability of the program. We do fund through CHSP as well. I think just as a critical need for our community, funding the capital improvement side, I can understand that, but we are extending this for 5 more years. So whether we have a deeper dive into CESC's work specific to the center, not the other programs, and the long-term sustainability of this shelter, what other funding requests might come to us in the future, I think it's good timing to do that. So I don't know if it needs to be a standalone budget item. We could have that come back as an agenda item. But if we do approve option 5, I would like to, I will make a motion after that, Mr. Chair, for an agenda item unless the maker of the motion wanted to include that into your motion, Commissioner Lindley. Thank you.
At this time, I just wanted to move forward with this as a standalone budget item. It's distinctly different from option 4, which was probably going to go into it more. I think this is a chronic and ongoing need. If there is some sustainability aspects that we can explore later, that would be wonderful. I don't think the county can ever really walk away from its responsibility to be, financially a player in the Kearney Center. So I would rather you do that as a separate motion if you want an agenda.
Actually, I think Commissioner Dozier, what you're explaining is more in line with option 4 when I look at it.
Mr. Chair, again, I think having this contingent on the city's side, I understand the motivation for that, and I can fully support that. I understand the shelter is going to have a need regardless of whether the city makes that decision or not. So this may be back in front of us no matter what. But Mr. Chair, I think we have a pretty good understanding of the budget request. So if it's the majority of the board's will to move forward with that budgetary request, I'm fine with that. If I had made the original motion, I would have put it more contingent on a discussion with the Kearney Center Board about the long-term sustainability and programs at the shelter. I think we need to get ahead of that conversation, and this is the right time to do it. So to me, it's fine with an agenda item. It isn't specifically about this budget request. Is that?
There's still several in line for discussion. We do have a motion and we have a second, but we will defer to discussion. Commissioner Proctor, and then Commissioner Deloge.
On point to what Commissioner Dozier was saying, I kind of agree. I mean, 5 years ago we made a commitment. There was a 5-year commitment that at the end of that 5-year commitment, we wouldn't be sitting here looking at another 5-year commitment. But now we're sitting here looking at another 5-year commitment. And to Commissioner Lindley's point, 5 years from now, I bet you we're probably going to be looking at another 5-year commitment. And so we had a thought that this was going to be one thing, but in all actuality, it's turned out to be another. And I think we need to have a conversation, frankly, about, okay, is this something that we're looking to support ongoing? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea that we do. I just think we need to have the conversation, be realistic about it. Or in 5 years, can the shelter actually say, can the Kearney Center actually say that they're going to be sustainable to the point that they would no longer have to come back to us and ask for $100,000 or even phase out the $100,000 that we're talking about? I think we have to be honest with ourselves. I think we have to be honest with our taxpayers to say that we're going to be carrying this for a while or forever, or is there an expectation that in 5 years we won't be? I just don't want to be sitting here 5 years from now, talking about whether or not we're going to do another 5 years when we know in all actuality this is something that we're looking to carry for a very, very, very long time.
Well, on the point, this is just for the capital expenses piece of it that we're looking at today, not the whole program.
All right, Commissioner Proctor and Commissioner Deloge.
Commissioners, let's be real clear. I understand what Commissioner Maddox has talked about, what our initial commitments, but Mr. Kearney is a stand-up man who put millions and thousands of dollars out of his pocket in doing so to create a homeless shelter from downtown, which gave greater value to the block between Martin Luther King and Macomb Street. And it cleared and freed up a huge city block. It gave a better, some would say a better look, and it unblighted that area. And he's not giving a partial commitment. He feeds people who are hungry. He gives people a place to live at night who don't have nowhere to go. And his commitment is not clocked on the cycle of the calendar year, this. This is just seems to be on and on. I respect him. He's not a la-di-da citizen, a wealthy citizen he is in our community. But there's very few people in North Florida who don't talk a lot but walk very strong for poor people. And Rick Kearney is to be applauded and commended for one person carrying the weight that he does, seeking a mere measly $100,000 for us. Now, we take care of a lot of homeless people too. That's that millions and millions of dollars we take care of folk at the jail. That's what we take care of. And we spend $81 a night, Teresa says. This man is taking folk who ain't in jail, and often he's taking the people who come out of jail with no option, no place to go. And for us to yield only $100,000 contingent on what the city of Tallahassee does is not secure enough. He walked out there and led this pathway. People from all over the world come to see how he has matrixed a lot of services funneling and integrated into that thingy over there. And that's commendable. Deloge has talked about it across the nation as the national president of counties, or what a great situation we have and how we process that. We ought to be going with option 4, y'all. And that is not contingent on what we don't even know what they're going to do. We thought they're going to have a police station one place, and they changed their mind and ain't going to do it. How you know what they're going to do? What we ought to do for people who are homeless should not have the word contingency, contingent on the city providing an equivalent amount. They might decide to drop theirs to $20,000. Knowing them, who knows what they're going to do? So we have an opportunity, and staff has brought and set the table that we not contingent our gift. And somewhere from a moral perspective, I think I heard someone say, when I was homeless, did you provide for me? Did you give me shelter? When I was hungry, did you feed me? That question has not gone away. It is still there in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have an opportunity to live up to just that standard, just the parsley amount. And commissioners, I would ask you not I can't put what I want to do for and walk a little bit with Mr. Kearney on the contingency of what the city. I don't have to defer my thinking to the city to think for me. I retain the independent judgment of my own thoughts, and I'm going to offer that we do the right thing, the total thing that we can do in rightness, and incorporate what Commissioner Dozier has said, all of those things. And I would offer that in addition to those comments with a substitute motion of option 4, that we, for this amount of money, ought to be receiving a report back from these people, what they've done with our money, how many people got served, how many people got housed, how many people got fed, what is our money doing? And I would appreciate knowing from an accountability basis that our monies, we can report to our community why we gave them money and why we're going to re-up in 5 years. But we can't leave Rick Kearney out there by himself doing this heavy load as a private citizen, and his government ain't got his back. So please support the substitute motion, option 4.
Motion has been made for option 4. Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Moving to Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well said, Commissioner Proctor. And if for some reason the city does blink, I'll be the first one to make the motion to try and bring this back, and we'll do it. I think the idea is we walk in this together. But you make a great point, which is Rick Kearney has carried the ball quite a bit here. I mean, we're carrying it across the finish line. He's carried it, 90 yards down the field. And that's the way these kind of things ought to work, where there's a lot of private equity or a lot of private partners in the mix. And to Rick's to his credit, I mean, he wrote a $4 million check when we moved in. He continues to fund the shortfall. I mean, we'd like to have more citizens like that here in the community. He's doing great things. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier, and then we will take a vote on option 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I absolutely agree with the comments that have been made. Mr. Kearney's gift to fund to the tune of $4 million the center and moving the shelter, as you rightly say, Commissioner Proctor, out of our downtown area and Frenchtown area was critical. I do want to say, though, that he led the charge on this, but there's over $700,000 in in-kind contributions from other community partners, the staff, private donations, CHSP. There's a tremendous state, federal grant. There's a tremendous amount of money going into the center, into the programs. I do think this is a critical piece. We have to have a homeless shelter here. It should not be lost on anybody that we, by default, serve our other counties as well, who don't have a shelter, because we are an urban center among our rural neighbors. So there's always going to be a higher number. My concern here is that there is a core program for sheltering homeless folks that is absolutely a service that we're always going to have here, without doubt. Thankfully, the Kearney Center goes well beyond those services, and there's a lot of other funding partners there. If we get to the end of this 5 years, and you're right, Commissioner Lindley, this is for capital expenses, and as Commissioner Maddox, you said, we're going to see another ask. The line that stuck out to me in this agenda item was that having an additional contribution from the city and county to deal with the capital expenses, the debt service, would help them further decrease the deficit for their operating budget. It's not eliminating that deficit. This is the conversation we need to have now, because this is a critical resource. So I couldn't support option 4 there because it doesn't have the contingency language. I'm not hearing a strong appetite for a budget discussion item. I can go in that direction, but I would like to make a substitute motion that we have option, just to wrap this up and move on, that we have option 5, as Commissioner Lindley suggests, along with an agenda item that looks at the various programs within the Kearney Center and the long-term fiscal projections that the Kearney Center is seeing in their programs, and how this debt service will could help them decrease that deficit.
Chairman, I second that for discussion.
More than 5 years out on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have to have a second to the, or you have to accept her motion, Commissioner
Were
Lindley.
you amending mine?
No, I made a substitute motion just so I don't have to come back and make a second motion.
Okay.
It includes option 5, as Commissioner Lindley said, and an agenda item to dig into the budget discussion, work with the Kearney Center to look at these things long-term. This is a critical need. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not to belabor the point, but Commissioner probably made some great points there about the sacrifice or the way that Mr. Carney has stepped up to provide for our homeless folks here in Leon County. But I believe at the time there was even a projection then that there would be no need for us to continue to carry this 5-year $100,000 commitment past the 5 years. On the other side of that, Commissioner Proctor, I do agree in that if this shortfall continues, that we do have a responsibility as local government here in Leon County continue to support our homeless, the least of those in our community. And so what I'm waiting for is exactly what Commissioner Dozier asked for, is for them to come back and tell us now that they've actually been doing this for a while. They can come back and give us, okay, this is what we're looking at. You are going to have to carry it for a while. This is what that while looks like. Or is it we are looking for an indefinite commitment of the $100,000, so we can have a real conversation about what this is going to cost us, what this is going to cost the county, and what they're actually putting in at the Kearney Center. My support of whatever comes back at that agenda item, Commissioner Proctor, as you said, will not be contingent necessarily on what the city does. It'd be contingent on how effective our dollars can be in assisting the Kearney Center with getting rid of the shortfall that they have with long-term sustainability of the organization. We built the Kearney Center along with Mr. Kearney and the city of Tallahassee as a great idea of way we could support our homeless folks here in Leon County. We can't walk away now. It's way too big for us to walk away from and not continue to invest some level of dollars if it's needed in order for it to be a sustainable organization within Leon County and service not only Leon County, but as Commissioner Dozier said, the surrounding area. But I would even venture to say, not even just the Big Bend. I think you go even outside of the Big Bend to folks to come here to participate in those services. So I look forward to that agenda item coming back, and I look forward to hearing from the Carney Center really where we are and what you need from us on a long-term basis in order for the Carney Center to be successful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just to make it clear, we do have a substitute motion, and it includes an agenda item being brought back on the long-term operation of the Carney Center. Am I correct?
When are you thinking of the agenda item? Before the budget season ends or thereafter? Because I would really like to see it after, not tied to this capital expense.
Even though we may enter into a 5-year contract, we're going to look at this budget item every year, right? So I am okay with that agenda item, given option 5, and there was general support for that, coming back after our budget, but not too far after. I think we need to dig into it. However, I am hearing comments from Commissioner Proctor and Commissioner Maddox that, and Commissioner Deloge, you mentioned this as well, that you wouldn't mind revisiting this issue if the city, I mean, option 5 is contingent on the city. So if the city doesn't move forward with it during our budget time, we're going to need to see this come back again based on the comments by the 3 of you. So Mr. County Administrator, can you help us posture this the right way? Would you bring it back to us anyhow if the city did not decide to move forward with the funding?
Mr. Administrator?
With that direction, we will.
Okay. Is that sufficient?
I think
So we're good on the substitute.
that summarizes it. We will have Commissioner Proctor, and then Commissioner Lindley, and then Commissioner Maddox.
No,
Mr. Chairman,
I've said all I'm saying.
All right. Then we will vote on the substitute motion.
I think with the ask that Commissioner Dozier's substitute motion wants to look programmatically at what occurs there. And I think that one of the elements, the essence of the connectedness of the homeless shelter and the jail, the interplay, the overlay of people who walk out of the jail and walk directly down the street as a first stop. I like to see that captured. When you see that, you will know that this homeless shelter is an outside extension. It's the pod that's not under the sheriff's building, but it's another pod of the jail, in particular when people are taking their infancy steps back into citizenship. And then I believe that our total focus of Commissioner Maddox is not the mere focus on, we help them build the building, but it's one thing to build a building and not take care of a homeless shelter building and not take care of the homeless people. And I think that while we built the building, the responsibility of caring for the homeless people, it's ongoing. When we were in Washington last week, one of the indelible memories I have is passing by the White House and seeing homeless people across the street in front of one of the strongest symbols of power in the world. And there were people who were hungry. There were people who were hungry on K Street and homeless. There were people who were homeless on I Street. And these addresses and these areas are some of the most reputable, powerful people in the whole wide world. And yet, in spite of the conclave of power, there are those who were crawling on the ground on all fours on U Street because we don't see them. So some things that we do, budgeting, and we do from a cognitive perspective, from the shoulders up, and some things, Dr. Hollifield, we do, and we make decisions on as a matter of the heart. And this, to me, is incorporative of all of those things. So I'm appreciative of the motion that's been wrought, and I think that it pulls together the best pieces of what all of us are saying.
Okay, so substitute motion has been made and seconded to provide bring back an agenda item on operation of the long-term operation of the Carney Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. All right, as I promised, we would do these in sections and we would start to be more expedient. Yes?
Mr. Chair, I want to go ahead and make a motion for option number 8 with the caveat that it's contingent on the city contributing their level of their funding as well. But before we vote on it, well, I'm going to get a second first. Before we vote on it, I did want the folks from Purpose Built as well as Representative Osley and Ms. Williams to address Dr. Holyfield's concerns. I respect Dr. Holyfield. I respect that the position he plays in our community and his opinion of the things that we're doing with our community. And so for him to feel as though we have not had enough community input, not a lot of people are informed of what's going on with Purpose Built in our community. I would like for that to be addressed prior to me even making the motion. So if somebody from Purpose Built.
Yeah, if we could have someone from Purpose Built that wouldn't mind.
Or Ms. Williams address that.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox, and thank you all for having us here. So we have had a deep engagement process as part of what this model requires, really, is ultimately the community owning this effort. And so, by the way, I'm David Edwards from Purpose Built Communities. I should have announced that in advance. So there's already been deep conversations with the community. The process that the Public Housing Authority has run around the Orange Avenue redevelopment, which is a process that looks beyond simply the Orange Avenue Apartments property, but throughout the neighborhood. They've had 4 community meetings where Purpose Built was part of those meetings. The stakeholders in the community are aware of what we're doing, but that's just the beginning. So we're going to build on that infrastructure as we move forward. The point of this legislation that's in front of you is to fund the community quarterback organization, without which you can't really run it, that exercise of community engagement and community partnership. So what we're advising you all to do is to stand up this community quarterback organization so you can build on the work that's been done and really create a formal community outreach, engagement, and partnership process so that at the end of the day, this effort has to be owned by the community, and that's the process we think you use to get there.
Thank you, sir. I was actually the commissioner who took the trips that actually had the opportunity to go and look at some of the properties that Purpose Built in Columbia has constructed in other areas. I was very impressed with the product that comes out of it. And one thing that Dr. Holyfield that I was most impressed with was the process and was the fact that they did get so many people involved in the process of coming up with what was going to actually happen in the redevelopment of the area. And so with that being said, I do what does give me pause a little bit, though, was the city's reaction to the funding request made by the community quarterback organization. But through my conversation with the county administrator, I'm comfortable making the motion for item number 8 contingent on the city, because if for any reason the funding does not come in from the city, we can simply just put that money back into contingency, or if we so feel there's another need within our community we can spend those dollars on, we could do that as well. And so that's why I make the motion for option number 8, not guaranteeing the purpose, the community quarterback organization anything but an opportunity to have access to those dollars if the city of Tallahassee will come forward with their funding. And if they do not, then staff bringing the options back to us to either place that money back in contingency, or at that point look at other needs that we may have in our community to spend that money out of contingency, $75,000 out of contingency on. I do believe that we have the money in contingency to do so, and so that is the reasoning behind my motion for option number 8 with the amendment of the funding being contingent on the city of Tallahassee funding.
All right, so a motion has been made for item number 8 with a contingent on the city's contribution, seconded by Commissioner Minor. We have several commissioners in queue to speak. We'll start with Commissioner Deloge, Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Lindley, and Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great program. I think it's one of those things that can transform the South Side, certainly make a difference in our community. But I think, as with the earlier thing talking about the homeless shelter, that Kearney, we need to be the last money in the door. We don't need to be the first money in the door. And my understanding is the city in their budgeting process basically closed the door and said no. Now, they may come back and I'm willing to leave the door cracked open for us to reopen that. We can find $75,000 if that's the ask here, if and when the city does it. I don't want to just roll this and say, let's leave it open. I'd rather say, so I would make the motion for option 9 and say, no, we don't fund it now, if and when the city steps up. And frankly, I'd love to see a little bit more of the private sector here, make at least a good faith effort. Because if you look at the way the model's supposed to work, is the private sector steps up in a significant way, and we carry it across the finish line. I don't know that it's our place to fund from the beginning. So that's my opinion. I'd make a motion for option 9, which is to not approve the funding request today. But I'll leave the door open. If the city comes back and they're all gangbusters, then we revisit this.
I think, is that a substitute
Yeah, pardon
motion?
me. Yeah, substitute.
To item 8, correct? Mr. County Attorney. Okay, Commissioner Deloge has made a substitute motion for number 9 and seconded by Commissioner Lindley. It's still in queue for discussion, or still up for discussion. We will go to Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm not sure if David's still here. Thank you. And yeah, of course. Representative Wallisley, thank you for being here today. I'm Brenda Williams from Tallahassee Housing Authority. Commissioner Maddox, we have been sold on the purpose-built model. I appreciate your trips, other things. I think where Commissioner Deloge, the comment you just mentioned that when we talked about this project, and I think it was about a year ago that I last talked with David and others about this, and we're no longer on the CRA, things like that, so we're not getting updates as we were a year ago. The private sector funding for the community quarterback organization was the only comment that I had heard until these agenda items came up about other funding. So I would be willing to do a budget discussion item and get a lot more detail. The city had a workshop on this, so we don't have as much information in this agenda item. I can support the motion on the table, though, and quick clarification on that. Should the city move forward with funding, you're asking for something to be brought back to us. Is that correct, Commissioner Deloge? Okay.
I would absolutely be interested in reopening the discussion. I'm not going to say I'm all in, but that changes the whole flavor. Frankly, this is really ought to be a city-led primarily, and it's not. And it looks like we're taking the lead on it suddenly, and I don't want to be holding the bag here. So.
Well, I would just add one more comment. I can support this. I do understand the need for the public engagement. There's a lot of moving pieces within a purpose-built model, but we are not a community like Atlanta, where the first one was, and others that has a lot of big donors. So I would like to understand more, if this comes back to us in the future, about the fundraising efforts, and then if we need to look at this in a different way. Is there a partnership with city, county, with existing staff and other agencies, with city, county, others that could reduce that cost? We may have to do things different here than other communities to successfully get a purpose-built model. This is a lot of money for us to put into administrative, and sometimes that is absolutely necessary. I need to learn a lot more to understand why we would need to do this in the future, so I like the posture of the motion. Thank you.
Representative Osley, you've stepped to the podium, so we will certainly recognize you before we move on to other speakers.
Thank you
for coming today.
Well, thank you. And David did have to catch a plane. But I just want to clarify the city piece, because I know the headline in the newspaper is probably what gives people pause. And if you read further into the article, we left that meeting with a clear indication of support from the city, from a unanimous indication of support from the entire city commission to fund this project going forward, just not with CRA dollars. And they asked us to come back to say, tell us how to do this without CRA dollars. So it's unfortunate that the timing, where we are at this moment. We also today received word from Florida Blue of a $50,000 contribution. So as you all know, Wendy Walker, I think most of you know Wendy. Wendy is in her retirement. She has taken this project on, and she's our development director with the commitment of helping us find those private sector dollars. But the bottom line is, for us to start that process, we have to be designated as a member of the purpose-built network. And to be designated as a member of the purpose-built network, we have to have this community quarterback and some funding to support it. So we're sort of at a chicken and egg situation right now. And that's why this is, and I totally understand, and we're happy to come back before you and lay it all out. But I just want to make sure y'all knew those two pieces. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. We have several other commissioners in queue to speak. Are there any questions from commissioners? All right. Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Minor, and Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing the extent of my comments tonight. But we received a letter from Representative Osley and Representative Ramon Alexander to us that was dated March 1st of this year. And what they told us is that, based on their writing, is that the South City Foundation is a newly created 501c3, will serve as the community quarterback. They told us that we anticipate an organizational board meeting in the next several weeks to formalize the board, and their recommended governance structure was on the attached slide. So they're asking for some money for something that ain't been formalized. And I don't think that we should be giving out money to something that ain't formalized. They said to us March 1st, we anticipate, it ain't happened. They anticipating an organizational board meeting in the next several weeks to formalize the board. Well, I don't think that we should give money to something that ain't happened, you know. Should we, General Counsel, can we do that? It's rhetorical. Then they requested of us $50,000 for 2019, $25,000 for 2020, and another $25,000 for FY 2021 from Leon County. And they said they're going to ask the city for the same thing, and that their community quarterback board would be committed to identifying additional sources of revenue to replace the public investment. And that's what Commissioner Nick Maddox was saying about Kearney Center. Them same words, that we're going to replace the public investment, except for public investment never got replaced. The problematic of this, and I love Brenda Williams, I do, and I appreciate so much energy going to the South City. But when you create something called the South City Foundation, that's like me creating the Golden Eagle Foundation, and then me and Rick Kearney is the co-chairman of it, and this is the Golden Eagle Foundation. Ed Hollifield is on there, and a whole bunch of people from the South Side. So I feel, look at this board. I don't think that Representative Osley is from, she represents Tallahassee. She isn't Ramon. But y'all, the Southside Foundation, Mr. Steve Evans is on here. Rick Kearney is on there. And we, trying to give Rick some money for the Kearney. Then he's on the quarterback club trying to get us some more money. Kearney might need to go get a job or something. Stop asking us for all this money. Kim Williams is on this thing. Mark O'Brien is on this thing. Where's the people from South City? I know you ain't. I'm looking at it. Then we have the advisory council is Ms. Brenda Williams. Okay. We got Mr. Michael Parker from the city, Tallahassee. Shinkton Lammy is from Leon County. Courtney Atkins, Hochul, FSU, Nicole Patton, Roseanne Woods from the school board. All I'm trying to say is that I couldn't get up a bunch of names and go up there and create the Golden Eagle Foundation with a whole bunch of people that ain't from Golden Eagle. Ain't that something? So this is a ruse. The name of it, South City, is being, in my opinion, and I can say this because I can. it ain't right. And if you're going to be a quarterback club and it's for South City, then how come ain't nobody from South City there? If 1%, if Chris Steek is representing South City, I can't recognize Mr. McGee is from South City. Quincy Griffin, I guess, is from South City. But this board for South City, by South City, and of South City, ain't hardly got nobody on there. And if you put Steve Evans, Rick Kearney, Kim Williams, and Mark O'Brien together on any board, it makes it palatable to a municipal unit to support. Great combination of names. But this is not South City Foundation. And this is not an entity. If y'all read this sheet of paper, this is not even an entity that has been organized, but Representative Osley said with her own signature, we anticipate organizing in the next several weeks. Well, when you organize, come back. Thank you.
Your motion?
Yeah, at this time, we do have a substitute motion on the floor. It was made by Commissioner Deloge, seconded by Commissioner Lindley. Option number 9, do not approve the funding request from the Community Quarterback Organization at this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Substitute, well, we should have had a motion to call the question.
Okay.
Yeah,
We got a second on call to question. Take that motion first, call to question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by same sign. 6-1. We will now address the substitute motion, which is option number 9. Right. Do not approve the funding request from the Community Quarterback Organization. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Motion passes 5-2. Sure, on point.
Thank you. My opposition to the motion was simply that the city of Tallahassee did not kill this thing, and I didn't want to see us make a motion that said we did not support today either. I would have liked to, if we want the city of Tallahassee to go first, for us to at least have postponed or maybe taken option number 7 as an option to give them the opportunity to go ahead and look at or make a decision about what they wanted to do, and then we can make our decision. I don't believe that at all that what's attempting to be done here is to create something that's not what the South Side would want. That's not what the folks of the South Side or the folks that are involved in the Housing Authority would be proud of as a product that they created on their own. But I do understand, Commissioner Proctor, every single point
Absolutely.
that you made.
We can't have a rules. We're going to have a real Southside Foundation.
Every single point
real
that you
one.
made, I do understand, and I would ask that the folks that are here that are working on this hear every single point that Commissioner Proctor and Dr. Holyfield made, and correct the mistakes that have been made, and I will call them mistakes in a way, that have been made in trying to create this thing that we're trying to do here. Because at the end of the day, it's really about the folks who live in Orange Avenue apartments and creating a better environment for them, better housing for them, a mixed-use creation on that site that looks of the nature of a Southwood, not necessarily a Southwood, but something they can be proud of to call their own little piece of heaven that looks like a Southwood, somewhere where the kids there can go to a playground, go to a pool, or even walk around the street to a grocery store or something like that. I don't want this thing to fail because there wasn't enough involvement by the folks who live in the area in the process.
And this ain't enough involved.
If we can fix that, if there's some kind of way we can fix that, there's some kind of way we can get more people involved. And I do understand, I'm going to be honest with you, I understand why some of the board was constructed the way it was constructed, and maybe even trying to get those folks to commit to the funding side of it. But if this is going to be successful, folks from the South Side, more folks from the South Side, 1, are going to have to be involved. And 2, those folks that are on the board are going to have to commit funds. The model that I've seen did not contemplate in other places it being funded by a governmental entity. Now, I do understand we are Tallahassee, and I'm in fundraising. I know how difficult it is. But there are people on that board who have means, and they're going to have to step up in order for this to happen. If they don't step up, if the people in this community don't step up, it simply doesn't happen. So those are my comments on it, Commissioner. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you giving me a second to make those comments.
Thank you for the input. Commissioner Minor, I'm going to put you on the clock because we are on the clock and we have to still make it through our agenda items and get back here by 6 for joint.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I used to do public policy development for a living and would put together policy proposal for state government and local government. And the things that were most successful in terms of policy proposals were the things that have been done before. The things where other states or other cities have tried similar policy approaches and they've worked. And you can, as a consultant, you can point to those examples where a state has done this and it's worked. A city has done this and it's worked. That was the thing that has been the greatest appeal for me with purpose-built communities. You know, we've been talking for decades in this town about trying to alleviate poverty and deal with poverty. This project, this approach, has the most chance for success than anything else I've seen. And so I really hope that the county commission here will see it within the will give this consideration to have a hard discussion about embracing this. I know the city needs to show up at the table too, and I hope that they will. But this is we've been talking for so long, for so many years, about trying to deal with poverty. I've seen Dr. Holyfield come up, 50 times about the issue with infant mortality. We keep on talking about these same things time and time again. And yet here's something that has a germ of something that has proven success in other communities. And I think we need to latch onto it and embrace it and give it a chance. We need something transformational because what we're trying day to day today, we've got a lot of nonprofits that are doing a lot of great work just simply trying to hang on. But we need to think creatively and embrace ideas that are going to give us a chance to really make this a success and finally be able to make some progress on poverty. That's why I really hope we take a hard look at this. Regarding Dr. Holyfield's point about community involvement, this funding step is the very first step to allow them to do that community involvement. I know, as well as you do, sir, this will not work if people in the South Side are not made, not just simply reached out to, but are made partners in the process. It will not work any other way. But I've seen this model, I've researched it, I've been to the website, it's out there, there's a lot of good information on it. I think this is something we really need to fight for and it's something that we need to give a chance because the status quo is not working. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Representative Bosley and Brenda, thank you so much for coming this evening. Mr. Administrator, we will go on to item number 20.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Commissioners, this item requests board's approval of a revised funding strategy to pay for Hurricane Michael.
Move option 1.
There we go.
Option 1 has been moved by Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, 6-0 with Commissioner Proctor out of chambers. Item number 21.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks board's acceptance of an updated Canopy Roads Management Plan.
Move option 1.
Do we have a second? Canopy Roads Management Plan. All right, move option 1 by Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. 6-0 with Commissioner Proctor out of chambers.
Mr. Chair, as your appointee to the Capital Regional Capital Source Board, I would like to make a motion for option number 1 on item number 22.
Item number 22, option 1, motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Deloge. Option made by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Proctor out of chambers. Mr. Administrator, item number 25, do we want to?
Mr. Chairman, yes, and let me, if I could, just slow this one down just a little bit. This item seeks your approval of a status report on our ongoing tornado recovery efforts, which have been significant, Commissioners. I just wanted to pause to to note the county staff in their actions, which have been commendable before and in the immediate aftermath of the tornado, to help our residents that were impacted directly, as well as seeking your direction tonight, Commissioners, to continue that assistance to those who were impacted by the tornado. Options 1 through 4 facilitate that, and they include the waiving of building permit fees according to or consistent with county policy, as well as the ability to get some administrative authorization from you all tonight to use SHIP dollars for the purposes of continuing that assistance, as well as declaring a local state of emergency to be able to facilitate any additional state and federal aid which these folks may be eligible for in the future. And with that, Commissioners, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And move options 1 through 4.
Move options 1
With
through
thanks.
4, seconded by Commissioner Maddox. I have Commissioner Dozier in queue. I know that it is her district and she would like to comment, although it's all of our district in one way or the other.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make a quick comment and thank County Administrator, the Deputy County Administrator, Matt Cavell, Kevin Peters. And Gary Zirin, we took a drive out yesterday to visit with some of the families in the Balm Road area, and it is remarkable, as you can imagine, to hear the stories of these people who had 45 seconds to a minute of sheer terror. And the fact that we did not lose anyone in this storm, when you see the devastation at some of the houses, it is breathtaking. It could have been closer to Alabama had this tornado stayed on the ground for a longer period of time. These options, Mr. County Administrator, are excellent, but I did not want to move, as you said, too quickly through this item without saying that every house we went to, the folks we talked to recognized Kevin immediately for the disaster assessment that you did, I think, the day after the storm, and to know him personally. I'm not surprised at all, but that was, a really great indication of how quickly our folks responded. EMS, Public Works were out there the night of. The county team covered it up on Monday and throughout last week. So, and as did Salvation Army, Red Cross, others. So this was an extremely good team effort in a really devastating way. Last 2 comments, Mr. Chair. One, some of these neighbors still need volunteers. Some have gotten volunteers to help clean up debris. I think we're going to work through Volunteer Leon to perhaps get more help for some of the folks. And the last thing, I think we heard our PSA going into this year, which was one homeowner, his wife and grandson, noted how important the text alert was. That this was the one that gave them the time to get into the pantry and avoid injury. And so as we move into storm season, that one's going to stay with me. And just really appreciate your efforts. This is bad, but it could have been a lot worse. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Motion has been made for approving options 1 through 4. Motion made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Proctor out of chambers. Commissioners, we have a joint meeting on the land development plan with the city commissioners at 6 o'clock. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. Adjourned.